He's a graduate of Michigan State University, and he also has a bachelor's degree in nutrition and biochemistry and a master's in microbiology. Currently, since 2005, he has served as the executive director of the Jorgensen Family Foundation. It's an agricultural research and education foundation devoted to developing and demonstrating profitable and sustainable models of beef cattle production. He also completes the daily day-to-day operations of Hedge Apple Farm. In addition, he also serves as Executive Vice President of the Maryland Cattlemen's Association and as the Executive Director of the Maryland Beef Council continuously since 1985. Scott and his family also operate Fieldstone Farm, where they raise Angus cattle, meat, sheep, and all natural layer hens. So I'm going to turn it over and then complete your evaluations and then just lay them on the back table at the end of the session.
Okay, so how many were here for the first one before lunch? Oh, great. All right. So thanks for coming back. That's a good sign. So what I want to do in this session, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what the carcass cutout looks like in terms of cuts, where they come from, what the yields are, so that I get a lot of questions, especially on the value-added beef cuts, where those come from and what they really are. And there is so much opportunity in a beef carcass. I told you in the first session, I'll say it again for those that weren't here. Our goal at the end of the day is to extract as much money from a consumer as we can possibly extract. I mean, that's just a fact. Isn't that what Walmart, isn't that what everybody's doing? You know, my wife, we're going to talk about the consumers here in a little bit, but you know, a lot of them are confused about stuff and they'll ask questions that are ridiculous. My wife's always, well, don't you straighten them out? Don't you? I say, honey, all I ever say is, will that be Visa or MasterCard? So we're going to talk about that consumer, but before we do that, for your benefit, I think we should look at the cuts and where some of these value-added beef cuts come from. So we'll spend a few minutes doing that, and then we'll transition to the target consumer. Who's buying the product that we sell? Who's buying the product that you probably are selling or would like to sell? Because they're an interesting bird, and you need to understand them. And remember, write this down. I am not my customer. I am not. I wouldn't eat the grass-fed beef, you said. Fine, who cares? I don't care what you eat. But there's people that will, and they'll pay good money for it. I don't eat it. I can't afford it. But it's not a taste issue for me, it's I can't afford it. So bear with me on that. Remember, you're not the consumer. You're not the target. All right, here we go. So, cuts. All right. Uh-oh.
Some of them cuts are probably the ones I used to grind in the hamburger.
Turn it on. Oh, yeah. Got it. All right, so some of those cuts are what?
I used to grind them up in the hamburger.
Oh, here we go. Yep, here we go. Who's going to eat flank steak?
Yep.
Who's going to eat skirt steak? What? I used to grind that up, put it in the hamburger. I don't care. Don't do it anymore. Because somebody's going to pay $15.95 for it.
Yep.
Wait till you see some of these cuts. Sirloin flat. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's called bavette. Doesn't that sound nice? Bavette. Sounds like money. Sirloin flat, it doesn't sound like money. Oh, and I've got a handout here. And we'll get to the handout. Go ahead. No, you pass it.
No, I got plenty.
No.
Okay.
All right. Just, I don't know who understands quality grades and yield grades. Just in case you don't, they're established by USDA. There's a quality grade and a yield grade. The thing to remember is this is not the same as meat inspection. Yield and quality grading is voluntary. You pay the grader to come into your plant to get your meat graded. You can't, federal inspection is mandatory if you're a federally inspected plant. You don't have a choice on it. You do have a choice on this. So a lot of small plants don't do grading, yield and quality grading. So there's two things. Quality grade is determined mostly by marbling, which is the intramuscular fat in the muscle, maturity, texture. You know, you got a 30 months, you can go out to 30 months on those, and then they can't be in the choice. Texture, appearance, but primarily it's marbling and age. There's 8 quality grades: prime choice, select, standard, commercial, utility, cut, canner, and we'll look at those. That's what they look like. This is marbling. So we won't. I wish I could point it slight, it goes from slight all the way up to moderately abundant, which is prime. So slight marbling, you can see the differences, right? It's not rocket science. Slight means there's a slight amount of marbling. Modest, a modest amount, small. So to be in USDA choice, it has to be small 0 or better. The interesting thing is, in each one of these, there's 10 levels. So you could have a small 0 or a small 90. A small 90 is still choice minus. A small 0 is still choice minus. So, you're here, was it Jimmy Buffett song, there's a fine line between Saturday night and Sunday morning. That's how this is in the marbling situation. So somebody that looks at it, like, if you get a grader that's in a good mood and he sees a slight 90, he might push it up into a modest 10 and it'll be a choice average. But if he had a fight with his wife before he left, then you might have a lot of choice minus. So there's some subjectivity. We're going to a grading standard, a grading situation that's machine graded, but it isn't. It's in use in big plants. You're not going to see it in small plants. That's what it looks like. A lot to say that. Let's talk about where the beef cuts come from. This is the primals. This is how the carcass breaks out. A 1,300 pound yield, grade 3 steer yields that many pounds of retail cuts from an 806 pound carcass. So 62% of them are roast steaks, 38% are ground beef, and stew meat. I talked about that earlier, and that's what you got to keep in mind, because you're not getting 20 pounds of stew meat and ground beef. So the chuck, tremendous opportunity in the chuck to add value to what you sell. We're getting into some of these cuts that were normally ground up. What's the chuck look like? 230, this is now on that carcass we just looked at, 29% of the carcass is in the chuck, 233 pounds roughly. Those are some of the subprimals. We're not going to go through all of this. We'll be here forever. What I want to show you though is boneless country style ribs, top blade steak, flat iron steak. These are petite tender, shoulder tender. These are individual, what we're doing is in this chuck, there's individual muscles, and those individual muscles have individual eating attributes. So you know what a 7-bone chuck roast looks like, where they cut across and the bone in the, you can see it in the grocery store, the bone looks like a number 7. It's called a 7-bone because it looks like a number 7. Well, there's 5 different muscles in that one. So if you've ever eaten one, you may go, oh man, I took a bite of this piece and it was great, it was tender and flavorful, and then another piece it wasn't so. That's because those are individual different muscles. So you fabricate out the chuck into these cuts, and you can achieve a price that's suitable for those. Let me give you one example. This top blade steak, in the trade it's called a flat iron steak. In the kosher trade, because the Orthodox Jewish people only eat the front of the carcass, which means the chuck area generally, it's called the Jewish tenderloin. Flat iron steak called the Jewish tenderloin. Top blade steak. Second most tender cut in the animal. Second most tender, second only to the fillet. You want to grind that up, put it in ground beef, or leave it in a 7-bone roast for $6.95 a pound? No. You want to cut that out. They make beautiful little 8-ounce steaks. They cook quickly. They're incredibly tender, juicy, and flavorful. Flat iron steaks, leave that $15.95 a pound. Okay? Just above the top blade is another muscle that's where the petite tender, right there, that petite tender comes. It's called a petite tender because it looks like a tenderloin roast, but petite, small. It's delicious. It's soft. It cooks quickly. It works great in a variety of different recipes. It's a value added. So do you follow me on this? This is why you need, now it's hard to find folks. It's hard to find processors that, number one, know how to get a top blade out of the carcass. Number two, are willing to do it, because you get folks that say, oh, I don't want to eat that. Just put it in ground beef or leave it in a 7-bone roast. But you're paying $400+ per carcass, get what you want cut. And if they can't, and when we started this deal, we got a guy who came from Chicago that had been part of developing some of these beef cuts, these value-added cuts, and we paid for him to come for a day, went to our butcher, the guy that was cutting for us, and he spent the day with those meat cutters and showed them how to pull these meat cuts out, these value-added cuts. And that's paid huge dividends for us because we can get those cuts we want. and then you label the details. So you got ranch steaks, another muscle from the chuck. No trimmable fat, very lean, not real tender, but great for stir fry. Great marinated and grilled, sliced for salad. And when you see the consumer, you're going to understand. You're going to say, I don't put meat on my salad. In fact, I don't eat salad. That's food for food, right? No, you know what I mean. You're not the consumer. I don't want to get bogged down, but that's some of them. The rib, you know what comes from, well, we go back to what it was, 75 pounds in the rib, 9% of the carcass. What do we got out of the rib? How many people have eaten a ribeye, and you think about a picture of a ribeye, and it's got this lip of meat along the top of the ribeye, and it's always very, very tender. Probably the first piece you eat, the ribeye cap. All right? If you take that ribeye cap off, you're left with what looks like a medallion, the center of that ribeye, that you can cut and do center ribeye steaks. And then you can value add to that cap muscle. That's another value added cut that comes out of the rib. The differential between ribeye steaks and the cap in the center isn't as big as some of the chuck cuts, but it's still a value added cut that you can market differently. So you've got ribeye steaks, you've got petite ribeye roast, ribeye fillet is what I'm talking about, that center cut of the ribeye when the cap is off. See that ribeye cap steak? Oh my God, goodness, if you eat that, you think you're in heaven. I mean, it's just so flavorful, so tender. And the consumers love it because it's not a huge serving size, but it's always tender and always juicy. And then short ribs.
What about the Delmonico?
Yeah, ribeye is Delmonico. Ribeye is the cut, Delmonico is the restaurant name, just like filet and tenderloin. Tenderloin is the muscle, the cut. Filet mignon would be the restaurant name. So ribeye and Delmonico. Older folks know Delmonico, younger folks don't. At least what I've observed, I don't know. The loin, this is where your filet and your steaks come, your strip steaks, porterhouses, T-bones come from. So 16% of the carcass. So you got the peel tenderloin in the top butt. The tri-tip. Anybody know what a tri-tip roast is? This is a big one on the West Coast. We get customers that come in and move to the DC area from the West Coast. They started asking about the tri-tip. I've never even cut them. So we started monkeying around with it and cut those tri-tips. We can't keep them in stock. It's three muscles in one, part of the short loin, sirloin, and flank. It's where those three muscles come together. I'll show you in the next one. But you grill it, it plumps up, it's got a little bit of a grain to it. You slice it like a flank steak across the grain, and it falls apart. Apparently in California, they cook these on the beach on the weekends and make sandwiches. And you just can't find them generally in the store. Great value-added product. Oh yeah, bottom sirloin flap. You know what that is? So there's this flap of meat that hangs underneath the sirloin, and that's the one I said is called the bavette. It's a French name or French-Canadian name. I think it means very profitable. You cut it out, and it's got a texture somewhat like a flank, except it's much thicker and more tender. The flavor is off the charts. So you marinate and grill it, or dry rub it and grill it, and slice it like for carne asada or for fajitas. Oh my goodness! And we were dropping those into the grind like idiots. And then I had a guy from Argentina come in and he asked me, "Can you get me some bavettes?" So he brought me an Argentinian beef cutting chart and he showed me what it was. Well, it was a sirloin flap. So we started cutting them out, labeling them as bavettes. We did one Saturday, I grilled some up, and we gave samples in the store. They're gone. As soon as I get them in, they're gone. We increased the price 4 times on those, and I haven't slowed them down yet.
How many ounces would be in one of those?
Oh, they're 3 pounds probably. We leave them intact.
Oh, you leave them all totally
Yeah, you could cut them in half, but they move really well for us, about a 3 pound piece. So sirloin flap or bavette, look it up. Let's see what's. All right, so then we just talked through that. We'll take it one time. And then the round. Oh, I do want to say, they're off the top of the sirloin, like we talked about on the cap on the ribeye. There's a cap over the sirloin, and if you pull that off, you can cut some really nice center cut sirloin steaks that are about 8-ounce servings. If you cut them an inch thick, or 1.5 inches thick, and they sell really well because it's serving size. But that sirloin cap muscle is in the Brazilian trade. Anybody ever eaten at Fogo de Chao? Fogo de Chao? Oh, look at that. All right, well, it's a Brazilian steakhouse. We got one in Baltimore. And they cook everything over like a wood fire on spits. And their signature dish is this dish called a picana. Pichana. Picana? Something like that. Well, all it is this sirloin cap. Some folks call it a culotte steak. Anybody ever heard of a culotte steak? All right. So they take it, they fold it over, and they stick the skewer through it, and they cook it over, and it's extremely tender and very, very flavorful. We started pulling those off, and we probably 30% greater value in our sirloin and our top butts than we were getting when we were selling them as whole sirloin steaks. A lot of times sirloin's an underappreciated cut, but a lot of folks have this kind of a bad idea about sirloins for some reason. You pull like you do, it's deep sirloin, center cut sirloin, and the caps, oh my goodness.
Big problem with a regular sirloin, they're so big.
Yeah, they're very big, exactly. And so you're either going to be cutting those in half, and then they don't look right. I mean, you're just ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. You're adding value to this carcass like you wouldn't believe.
I got a question before you leave the loin.
Yeah.
T-bones.
T-bones.
I can sell all the porterhouse I can get off the steer.
Yeah.
And T-bones don't sell well.
Yeah, I agree. You say T-bones don't sell well. To us, they don't either. If somebody wants a bone-in loin, a strip steak, but somebody asked me earlier, the only bone-in cuts that we do are porterhouse and T-bone, and we only do those from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I just can't move them. I can move the porterhouses. Of course, you get a lot fewer porterhouses depending on when they decide to break it into a T-bone.
Would it pay to make a strip steak out of it?
Yeah, I think it does. You're selling a little bit of bone weight, but we sell them cheaper, so you're not, at the end of the day, we're not really making any additional money on T-bones and quarters, and I'm giving up the fillets, and they're harder to market for us. And they're a huge steak. I'll tell you, I can't, I come back. The round, I don't want to run out of time because I want to make sure I have time for questions. So the round is tough. Round is tough to market. This is where most of your ground beef is coming from, right? I mean, very few people are making chicken fried steak anymore. And there's not a lot of round cuts that you can move. A lot of stew meat comes out of the round. The only thing, we cut London broils out of the round. The London broil is a cooking method, but somehow it got attached to the name of a cut. It's a thick cut, top round steak is what it is. We sell quite a few of those, but that's the only round cut we sell. Everything else goes into cubes of ground beef. There are, I don't know what to do with the round. I don't see it as a lot of opportunity to add value with the round, personally. You got these things, Western tip, and we sell a lot of eye rounds. I forgot about. We do sell eye rounds. I wouldn't eat one on a day personally, but I just don't like them. They're too lean. Whatever. The flank, what's in the flank? It's 130 to 19% under there. So the brisket, the flank, and the plate all together. Brisket's a huge seller for us. We do first cuts, which is with the cap trimmed off, and we do some holes. Let's see if we can show you here. Yeah, so the flank, you know what that is. The plate and the brisket. And I think you said it to me. I mean, those are things you used to drop in the grind. The skirt, the flank, skirts should go through the roof. Oh, fajitas and carne asada, and you can't find skirts. You can't go into most of the grocery stores and find some of the higher end ones like Whole Foods and the other one. Wegmans, yeah, Wegmans. You can find skirts, but most of the stores you can't. Even Sam's Club and stuff, I found if you want skirts, you've got a special order, you got to buy a case of them. So they were going in the grind, but they're a great value added. We sell out those all the time. And then miscellaneous, and we don't sell kidneys. We sell liver, heart, tongue, and oxtail. Oxtail you can't keep in stock. I wish I could bring cows with 2 tails. It just, and then you know what? We sell a lot of suet or fat. For the birds? No, not for the birds. It's ridiculous. The people you're going to see, these people I'm going to show you in a minute, that buy this product tend to like to make tallow. they like to render the fat and make cooking tallow, especially grass-fed cooking tallow. Apparently it's healthy. So we sell a lot of fat that folks are rendering down. They tell me once you cook home fried potatoes, and that's what, you know what it is? It's what McDonald's used before the food police got after McDonald's. That's what they used to make their fries in, beef tallow. That's when they tasted good,
Yeah.
right? So now I guess we're back to, if it's grass-finished, grass-fed, whatever, then it's safe to eat the tallow again.
Got more omega-3s in it.
Yeah, it's great. It's omega-3s. It's savings. Maybe we won't die. All right. So any questions on those cuts? I just wanted to give you an overview of that, just to put it in perspective. You have got to extract the value from these carcasses. You can't think like our grandparents thought, or like, you've got to think out of the box for these consumers. And so let's talk about the consumers. Questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hanger steak.
Oh, a hanger steak. I didn't talk about a hanger steak called the butcher steak. It's the diaphragm, right? It's hanging down the middle of the animal. It's a high-end. All of the foo-foo restaurants now want hanger steak. They want, again, it's like the tail, you get one. Kind of hard to build up a supply of hanger steaks. But,
They really sell them.
oh, they sell like crazy. That's another one. We can't find a top on those. I mean, they're all right. Okay, other questions on the cuts? All right, good. All right, so let's talk about marketing. I just want to talk about marketing because that's so much fun to talk about marketing with folks that God love them too. I mean, they're loyal customers and they talk to one another and they love the farm. They do. What are they thinking? Here's some of the things, and we've done some consumer demographic work through our foundation. So I'm going to talk to you about some data that we have from real consumers. What are they thinking? What are they reading? What are they wanting? Fresh, absolutely huge. Meaning, and that doesn't mean not frozen. That means not shipped in from Brazil. Or you know what I mean? We sell everything we sell frozen by the cup. Flash frozen, cryo sealed. That doesn't slow them down. That's not fresh that we're talking about. We're talking about the other fresh. Local? Yes, absolutely. We're going to see that in a minute. Safe and healthy. What does that mean? How do you define safe and healthy? I don't know. I don't care. You define it and then you come shop. However you want to define it. I'm not going to define it for you. How are they communicating? Do you know, 2 Sundays ago, I participated in something called a Twitter party. Do you have anybody know what a Twitter party is? Listen, we did, huh? Yeah, we did this thing. You know what Twitter is, right? So we did this. The American Culinary Federation had their annual meeting in Baltimore a few weeks ago, and through our beef council, in cooperation with the Northeast Beef Promotion Initiative, we had a display and we had some cooking demos and we had an Ask the Farmer. We had a lot of good stuff going on there in Baltimore. But to generate excitement for this, the night before, Sunday night from 6 to 7, we did this thing called a Twitter party. And basically, I don't really understand it. I was on a flight to Arizona and I sat next to a 7-year-old kid and he explained most of it to me. Basically, for an hour, when you tweet, there's a certain number of characters. How many? I don't know. 134 characters. That's it. So you can't say a lot. But you're going to get to the point. And so in this hour, you're watching it on 2 screens because you've got your screen you're responding on, and you're watching this other screen where people are tweeting in, and they're firing questions at us about beef and production systems and nutrition and health, and you're trying to, 130 character answers back and forth. And it started out, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was manageable. And there's something called a hashtag, which identifies something important. And because when you tweet, you have to hook it to this hashtag. And so the first 15, 20 minutes was manageable, and then it started to get nuts. And these tweets are coming in, but they're all good questions. Animal care, hormones, you name it. And so you're sitting there, you're reading the question and trying to tweet out an answer. It was unbelievable. I would have never thought in my lifetime that I'd be doing such a thing. In the middle of all this, it was one of the coldest nights we had. My wife starts screaming. I'm doing this at home from my office at home. She starts screaming. We have a pipe burst in the kitchen, above the kitchen, and there's water coming out the ceiling in the kitchen. She's screaming. I'm trying to tweet. I thought, Lord, this is not what you want me doing, this Twitter thing. So, anyway, that's a lot to say, but this is how these people communicate. Facebook, I never thought I resisted Facebook kicking and screaming. But now we have a Facebook page. And this stuff, this social media is almost, well, here it is. It is from the pit of hell. Write that down. It is, I'm sorry. But that's what they're using. They don't want me to mail them something. They don't even want me to email them something. If we've got a sale going on, they want to see it on Facebook, or they want me to tweet it to them. So we're trying to adapt, but it's hard to teach them with all the trick. I do have 2 younger daughters, and so they help. But you gotta face it. You can say, I'll never do something, but you gotta face the fact that's how your customers are communicating today. What's the demographic environment? What are they looking at? Organics have grown 20% per year for the last 7 years. 51 billion in 2012 on natural. What is natural? We don't even have a definition for natural. Isn't it all natural? I don't have any unnatural cows. The baby boomers and now millennials. Everybody's got a title, a descriptor. 67% believe balanced diet is important to staying healthy, but they might not know what that means. So this is some of the things we're looking at. Look, the breeding of America. I love to show this slide because if you don't believe that I've had people come into my store dressed like that, including the dog. Somebody's at the local store, they think they can bring the dog in, they would never do it at Walmart. But they'll come in the front door with the pooch. Like it's okay, like we're not, Listen, I cannot make this stuff up. All right, so, this is their picture. Factory farming. Like the Prius is, the cattle Prius is coming out the back. That's all nonsense. But this is what they're hearing. And then we got.
How do you counteract those comments about factory farming, production of water?
Oh no, I have a breaking point. I do. And
we can't badmouth other ways of farming.
Thanks for. He said we can't badmouth other ways of farming. Look, we have a small niche. If we tried to feed the world in our niche, we'd all be dead starved. Listen, I would never. I'm a beef producer. I grew up in the beef industry. I would never badmouth another production system, right? It's not about that. It's about extracting the maximum amount of money from the consumer that wants your product. You don't have to badmouth anybody to do that. They already come in with preconceived ideas. Now, I don't feed those, to answer your question. I do try to address things that are just dead wrong. But unfortunately, we've got folks in our own industry. Joel Salatin's a perfect example, who's happy to throw somebody under the bus to make $1, another producer. He wouldn't have been in Food Inc. if he. I gotta stop. This is getting recorded. I gotta keep remembering. But, so I won't let stuff go unchallenged if it's just stupid. But I'm also not going to, if this is what they want, because they've researched and they decide they want to eat a grass-based diet, I'm not going to give them a lecture about grass versus non-grass-fed diets. It's just not, it doesn't matter. Because if they don't buy mine, they're going to go somewhere else. I'm not going to change their mind on that. But I won't let them get away with hormone, antibiotics, and animal care issues, stuff like that. You've got to be educated. 55% believe global warming is a threat. Do you think they still do after this winter? Honest to God, I was praying for global warming in February. 32% are likely to cut back beef consumption to reduce greenhouse gases. What does that mean? They have no idea what this means. It's all cocktail party talk. The funny part is they talk about one thing, they don't follow through in general on what they're talking about. But here you go. Yeah, I'll cut back on beef for environmental reasons. 51% are likely to buy as much food as part of local farmers markets, and that's great news. They want to do it to reduce greenhouse gases, I guess, whatever. But right HR, they come to the farmers markets, God love them. They come in their Prius, whatever. I don't care. Prius, SUV, it doesn't matter to me. I'm glad they're coming and supporting local agriculture. Look at this. Chipotle. You know Chipotle's story. They're a bunch of liars. You know who owns Chipotle? McDonald's. The largest consumer of beef in the United States, maybe in the world. And they badmouth the industry that feeds them. That's just disingenuous. I would encourage you. The pork, yeah. Yeah, they stopped feeding. Well, we found out one of our pork producers was talking back to his pigs, and so we're not gonna serve pork. You can't get a carnita with pork, or I mean a chimichanga with pork right now until he straightens out his act with his pigs. Yeah, right. Tell that to the stockholders. That's a bunch of BS. It is. Here you go. The number one driver, in my opinion, and I've got the data to support it, is local. It isn't grass-fed. It isn't save the planet. I mean, all of those things are swirling around, yes, but the number one driver is local. When you look at Firm Time magazine, eat local, forget organic. Organic's become such a quagmire of what's organic, what's not. You know, it's a 50,000 cow dairy in California. That's not the bucolic Vermont dairy farm I had in my head when I bought the organic milk. So there's a lot of confusion. Hey, listen, we compete against a beef product that comes from Uruguay that's labeled USDA organic. Grateful Harvest. Write that down and Google it. Grateful Harvest meats. Raised in Uruguay, comes out of the jungles on helicopters by the legs. I don't know that. That's my picture. Disclaimer. You know what I mean? We have no control over the production in Uruguay. But because of the politicians in Washington, we say we will recognize if you tell us, Uruguay, that it's organic, because of our trade agreements, we will let you use the USDA organic symbol. You think I point that out to it? You better believe I point that out to our customers. Because you can go up the street 2 miles from us to Mom's, my organic market, or to the Common Market, another one of the fruit and nut places, and you can buy this Grateful Harvest stuff that came from Uruguay. And you're worried about carbon footprints. Drive 2 miles down. You know what we do? I know I'm getting off here, but this gets me exercised. We go up to the Moms and to the Common Market, and we stick our flyers under the windshield wipers of the cars in the parking lot periodically, just to point them down the street to edge out the farm. So local, huge. Well, look, here you go. How much extra are you willing to pay for local food? So 38% and 24, add those together, up to 5 to 10% more for local. That's pretty good news. You gotta say why. I don't have time to go into all of it, but yeah, how much? So that's a pretty good chunk willing to pay something extra for local, just local. And we haven't added on the grass-fed or the naturally raised or the. What do you think the number one question I get in our market from a customer? You don't know this unless you heard me talk about this before. Were they what?
Were the cattle happy when they died?
There you go. Maybe it was that one. Were they happy when they died? I'm like, well, when they hang it upside down, the kill floor, they kind of look like they're smiling. I don't know. So what do? You say, well, you know, they're raised born bred on it. We truck them to Baltimore on our own trailer. It's a really nice, expensive trailer. Jay's a good driver and it goes slow. And then, you know, we oversee. So you just try to tell the truth and not embellish the truth, but, you know, make it.
We harvest ours, we don't kill them.
Yeah, we don't. It's harvest. I know. We don't use slaughter. We don't use harvest. It's like we don't kill. It's harvest like a tomato. signs, friend a farmer, friend is the thing you do. What is that? Facebook. Yeah, your friend, that's another ridiculous thing. I got 5,000 friends. Well, I barely have 5 friends, really. You know what I mean? Eat local. Keep your friends close and your farmer closer. This is what they're thinking. This is the truth, okay? That's their truth. Locally grown food from locally grown farmers. Are you willing to pay more for local food? Broken out by households. Single urban households. Most disposable income, obviously, till you get into kids, right? And then young couples with kids, affluent families, seniors, everybody, even the low income. Thank God for Obamacare. See, even they can afford to buy local because we're paying for their health care. I'm sorry. I live near the Beltway. I hear it every day. No, I work and I pay for my stuff. I hear an amen. Amen. Oh, here we go. So, farm to restaurant. How much of this are you seeing? Every restaurant, and there's a paper, I'll get to that in a minute. The restaurants, they want to jump on this. They want locally produced stuff. So they want to come to farms because they see it as fresh and they see it as local and they know these are drivers that people want. So, farm to table, they want that on the menus. Now here's a question. We have this deal in Maryland, in Virginia, Northern Virginia. They hired this lady, they pay her a lot of money to promote farm from farm to fork. And she gets paid whether or not you sell a single steak at a local restaurant because she's a consultant, an expert, somebody from out of town with a set of socks. So, you dig into this a little bit, and we have, and you're going to see in this paper I wrote for you what this really looks like. It is fork to farm. That is the program. Because what the restaurants want you to do is cut your price so you can get it on their menus because they feel like they're better than anybody. And if you want to get in my restaurant, you cut your price so I can put it, and I'm like, no, you raise your price. You buy it at my price and raise your price on the menu if you want my local stuff. But the vast majority of the farmers get enthralled with, oh, I got my name on so-and-so's restaurant menu. This is going to be good, right? It's going to be good at the end of the day. It's not good. You're getting fork. Because the restaurants aren't going to take a hit because they're business and they look at the numbers. You know the numbers we looked at last session? They're looking at those numbers. So be careful. All I'm saying, this is a lot to say, to be careful in this. Restaurants are not the salvation for your direct marketing business. They won't be unless you maybe own the restaurant. I mean, I know Flying W folks, what they do, but they're a concession and consumption organization and they control it all the way through the restaurant. We've got some flexibility there, but if you're going into a local restaurant on the promise that you're going to get on their menu, oh yeah, we're going to drive customers to you because you're on my menu. That's what I said. Fork to farm. Be careful with that. Top 20 trends. Locally sourced meats and seafood, locally grown produce, environmental sustainability. Help me, I don't know really how to define that. I mean, I know from a production standpoint what that means. I'm not really sure. Does that mean you're using, I don't know what it means. Healthful kids' meals, gluten-free, oh my, gluten-free. And listen, no disrespect to anybody that's got Crohn's disease or have children with legit gluten issues. Well, all of a sudden, everybody's got a gluten allergy. And I'm pretty sure that feeding beef grain doesn't, I mean, I'm a ruminant nutritionist. I'm pretty sure the gluten isn't getting into the meat. I'm pretty sure it's the bun that you put the burger in. You know what I mean? But yet that translates in their minds. Oh, our kids can't eat grain-fed beef because they're gluten intolerant. That's an issue I would work on correctly. But it's a driver. Children's nutrition and sustainable seafood, branded items, farms, state branded items. I don't expect too much on that. So we did a study with the University of Maryland. We funded it through the foundation just to look at what people are willing in our area, willing to pay We wanted to ask the question, we wanted to sort out, is it local or is it grass-fed or some of both? What's the driver here? And so we tried to sort that out. We looked at a buying club. We used Costco, local grocery store, Mars in the Ellicott City, Maryland area, and Survey Monkey, which is not an actual monkey, turns out. It's something you do online. And we had 753 people participated in that. And we asked them, what are you willing to pay? And so in the consumer buying club, they were willing to pay $2.65 a pound more for grass-fed, but only $1.21 more for local. And that really makes sense. I mean, you're not going into Costco to buy local, are you? You're going in to buy a pallet of toilet paper. So that one makes some sense to me. Local grocery store, now a little different. $1.93 for grass-fed, but almost flipped around. They would pay more for local in the local grocery store. And then Survey Monkey said this. So the take-home message to me, I'll drop that out because that's not the demographic going into Sam's or Costco or whatever. So I would say here, the driver was local. And that kind of confirmed it to us, so we just kept reminding our customers that we live there at the farm. What influences your purchasing decisions? We asked 971 of our customers to respond to a short survey and rank these things. We got 613 responses back, which is really good. It might have been a coupon. So, what influences your purchases? Number one, far away, finding a local product. Appearance and value of the product. Appearance and quality of the product. Price, number three. Price is number three. They're going to pay for what they perceive they want. Flexibility in meal preparation, animal welfare standards, these are the questions we have. Social and environmental issues. Again, confirming to me that local, that's where you need to be talking. You need to be talking about local and the quality of the product. We're going to get into that in a minute. We good? What do we go through? 2:30 everything? Yep. What are they reading? Here's some of the stuff they're reading. Omnivores, Dilemma, Power Steer, watching Food Inc. GMOs, huge, GMOs. Usually ask if they eat seedless watermelons. Yes. Organic. Look at this. A lot of stuff on here, but I won't go through. But look at this. Healthy foods, local farms, food, sustainability, and do you see that word on the end? Justice. What is that? No, honest. Justice. Is it justice for the cow? The sheep? What does that mean? But they had a conference.
They don't know what it means either, I don't think.
They had a conference in Louisville on sustainability and justice. Look, God love these folks, but Visa or animal vegetable. I mean, you've seen 100. Oh, do you know what a locavore is? Somebody that tries to eat their diet within some prescribed distance around their home, and they have contests online. I ate 40% of my diet within a 10-mile radius of my home. I ate 60%. These locavores, and they have these contests, and it's all over online. And they're a great target. They buy our products. Look, eat your zip code. That doesn't mean the actual envelope. That means eat, you know what I mean? Locavores handbook, how to do it. And a lot of these folks, they understand. They're committed to seasonal diets. You can't eat grapes in West Virginia in December, right? So you're eating a seasonal diet, and they're into that stuff. They work hard at it, and I'm speaking at I'll come back to that. We might run out of time. It's less than 4. Oh no, we're getting close. Here's another huge thing. We're going to talk a minute about customer service. You can set yourself apart with customer service. One of the big things is that people don't know, the consumer we're dealing with, the demographic we're dealing with, doesn't know how to cook. They don't know how to select cuts. They don't know what to do with it. And if you can help them with that, and there's a lot of ways to help them, you will win a customer forever. Look, I'll get a lady come in and she'll say, no, this is not sexist at all. I remember we'd come home from church and my grandmother would have this roast that she made and the house smelled great and it fell apart, and I would love to be able to cook such a thing for my family, right? They don't even know where to start. You take them home, you show them a chuck eye roast, You hand them Pot Roasting 101, the brochure you can get from the Beef Council, Pot Roasting 101. You walk them through it. Heck, I told them I'll come cook it for you. It doesn't matter what you need to do. You need to provide exceptional customer service. This is why. Shoppers of all age, there's been room for improvement. More than half say their skills and knowledge could be better. 59% say they know how to, only 55%, 9% say they know how to select fresh meat. 44% say they know how to prepare fresh meat and cook to the correct numbers. Now this is huge. I said earlier in the other talk that our ideal ribeye is about 11. 10 and a half to 11 makes me very happy. It's nothing I can brag about at the coffee shop, because you got breeds that are giving 15 and 16-inch ribeyes. We cut all of our steaks 1.5 inches. Not because we want to move more meat. It's because of that thing in the bottom. So if you take a 10.5-inch ribeye and you cut it 1.5 inches, you've got about a 14-ounce to 16-ounce serving size, which is acceptable. You get beyond that and you've got way too much meat for this demographic. But it gives them a margin of error when they go to cook, because they don't understand the grain cutting. If I cut my steaks in half or 3/4 or even 1 inch, they're going to overcook my steaks. And then they're going to have a lousy eating experience, and they're going to blame me because they're not going to admit they didn't know how to cook. That make sense? Think about this when you prepare these cuts. I had a lady once, I usually ask them, try to be cheerful when we're selling, and she got a ribeye, and I asked her how she was going to cook it, and she was an older lady, and she said, oh, I'm going to put it in the microwave. Well, I took it back from her, and I gave her money back. She was hot as a hornet. I said, look, you're going to spend $20 on this steak, you're going to microwave it, it's going to be terrible, and you're going to blame me. I said, go to Giant Food, just buy something here. And you've got to be careful with this. You've got to use the customer service that you can do to help them with all of these issues. Make sense? Even more, they don't understand the grading grading system. I'm going to talk too fast. Every one of those words in that little diagram is key. And you will add value to your product. You will build consistent customers that repeat. Listen, you can sell anything once. Anything once. That isn't what this is about. This is about building a sustainable flow of loyal customers. 10 minutes? Sustainable flow of loyal customers that will not only come back, but will tell somebody. We do no advertising. We have a website, and it's a rudimentary thing that I can manage. That's all we do. These folks, this demographic, tweet each other. They Facebook each other. They talk to each other. We started getting calls for jerky from outside of the state. Can you ship us some jerky? How did you even know about Edge Out Farm? Oh, I saw a post on chowhound.com. I had no idea what that was. Looked it up. Here we go. Somebody bought our jerky, best jerky they ever had. They post on Chowhound. Next thing you know, we're shipping jerky places. These folks, the messages these folks talk to each other. Okay, make sense? All right, yeah, this is the paper. You've got it now. I just wanted to remind you that it's there. Listen, I'm not pulling any punches in the paper. There's stuff we did wrong. There's stuff we did right. Hopefully, prayerfully, you will learn from that, from our mistakes. A lot of stuff. Questions? Surprise of outrage?
So,
Did I offend anybody?
so it sounds like you're doing a lot better job by selling it by piecemeal on that, by finding special cuts. But like you were saying, you have a hard time doing the porterhouses and like that. Like, what do you do with that? Like
Strips and fillets.
strips and fillets?
Yeah, if you don't make porterhouses and T-bones, you bone it out. That's all it is one side is a New York strip, the other side's a fillet. So when you bone it out, you've got fillets and strips.
That's why porterhouse really sells well,
It's got-
because you're selling the strip steak and the fillet at the same time.
Yeah, and a lot of times what happens,
Understand that.
yeah, with the porterhouses, you get, the husband will eat the strip and the wife will eat the fillet, and so you fed two people at once. They love them like that. But they're just, for us, I'm not saying for everybody, just for us, our experience is, those are the two more difficult cuts for us to move. Maybe I got them priced too high, I don't know. But someone asked me earlier, and I don't think she's here, but I wanted to get to a point where no matter how I cut the carcass, I knew what my profitability would be at the end of the day. I didn't want to have to figure out, well, if I cut them in T-bones and porterhouses, then I'm going to make this much. But if I cut strips and rib and fillets, then I'm going to... So everything is priced within the system to be balanced. Doesn't matter how I cut the carcass, I know at the end of the day what my carcass value is going to be. Does that make sense?
How do you get that?
Huh?
How do you, where'd you made up this spreadsheet?
Get a spreadsheet.
At what age do you slaughter your, or harvest your animals? And how do you figure out if you sold it by the half, how much added value do you make by making special cuts of it?
I have no idea on the second question.
Did you used to do that though? I thought I saw it.
Yeah, at one point early on in the farm, but they were only selling 10, 12, 15 head a year as sides and quarters, and I have no history on that. That was before me.
Most of the millennials don't have a freezer big enough to put even a quarter.
Or a family big enough to eat that. So I can't intelligently answer that.
Say a 600-pound carcass, or what do you shoot for, and what do you get out of that per pound of that carcass?
Yeah,
The first.
Yeah.
The other handout.
yeah, the other handout will cover all that, but,
Oh, okay.
you know, yeah, that'll give you what we're doing.
Okay.
Because I covered all that in the first one. But I'll come back to it if Lo says other questions. Go ahead.
Do you age it or?
We dry age our carcass 14 days from the day it's processed, harvested. We don't touch it for 14 days. They go in a dry aging cooler, and then after 14, and usually it ends up more like 16 to 17, because we harvest kill on Thursdays, and then they start cutting Monday, 2 weeks out. So it's really 14 plus 2 or 3 days. We found that going longer than that doesn't really help us. So we like 14 days, just what we do.
You ever try not to do that?
Not age? No, it's just the way the system works out.
Right, I mean, there's some controversy out there whether it really helps the grass-fed grass beef or not. That's something to consider, because it's a good marketing. Everybody wants an age.
Well, but I think it helps. I mean, I know that you get.
I've had limited experience and I really can't tell.
Yeah.
Just a thought there.
It is a part of the marketing thing, but I believe it does improve the quality as well.
And, yeah.
What percentage of your customers do you think would be able to tell the difference between the grain fed beef and the grass fed beef?
What percent of my customers would tell the difference between a grain-fed beef and grass-fed beef? The kind of grass-fed and finished beef that we're producing, probably that number would be 0. But I can tell you for sure that I've had customers every week that come in and say, oh, I tried that grass-fed stuff once, and my husband said, you know, don't buy that again, or I wouldn't buy that again because I couldn't chew it, I couldn't cut it. So you got to compare apples and apples. Our fat is white. It's as white as snow. Our everything is high select, low choice, or better. It's marble. They look good. I have cattle producers that come in all the time and say, you're lying. This is not grass-fed finished beef. So you gotta, if you're comparing apples and apples, then I'd say 0. If you're comparing apples and junky grass-fed beef, I'd say a lot. Again, we can sell anything once. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. Other questions? HR, all in.
Young lady here.
Oh, okay.